When you're starting a nonprofit, there are several documents that you need to file to achieve your tax-exempt nonprofit status. But your work's not over after that. Each year, you also need to file a series of documents or take care of some other compliance issues in order to maintain your nonprofit status. So in this video, we're going to go through a checklist of what some of those compliance items are so that you can make sure to keep your nonprofit status safe. Welcome or welcome back. If we haven't met before, my name is Amber Melanie Smith. I'm a nonprofit founder and also social impact YouTuber who makes these videos to help others who want to start a nonprofit or social enterprise organization, make an impact through a socially conscious or socially responsible business, and more. I hope that you find this useful and helpful. Don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Also, if you are trying to start a nonprofit and figure some things out, such as developing a sustainable fundraising plan, check out my website, foundertofulltime.com, where I have some online trainings that may be able to help you out. Oh, and I also have a super cool newsletter that you can subscribe to at the link below this video, where I share tips and resources and sometimes funding opportunities that might help out your special cause. So check that out, and of course you can opt out anytime. All right, so as you know, nonprofit organizations must comply with various regulations and legal requirements in order to protect their nonprofit status and avoid penalties. In this video, I'm going to first talk through, or at least recap, 3 of the compliance items that you need to take care of while you're in the process of starting a nonprofit. And then I'm going to follow that up with 6 things that you need to be on the lookout for each year to file and take care of to make sure you maintain your nonprofit status. I do want to offer a quick disclaimer before I jump into this checklist, and that is that these rules and regulations might vary depending on the specific state or region that you're in, especially if you're in the United States or outside of the United States. So what you're going to want to do is note these different compliance items and then make sure that you're just checking the research to see if there's a correlating policy or rule specific to your region or state. All right, let's get into the 3 that you need to make sure that you are taking care of when you're starting a nonprofit. The first is going to be registration and incorporation. Especially in the United States, you have to incorporate as a nonprofit organization in your specific state. That is often one of the first steps to starting or filing to become an official nonprofit. Some of the things involved with this include filling out your articles of incorporation document, developing your bylaws, typically with your newly recruited board of directors, and then filing the specific registration paperwork for your state. A lot of people have the misconception that once you've taken care of this incorporation step, you are now a nonprofit officially in the United States, but that is not entirely true. Because the step after that is step number 2. Compliance item number 2 is filing for your actual tax-exempt status with the federal government. So first you took care of your state registration, incorporation. Now you want to get recognized as an official nonprofit on a federal level to the IRS. So this is usually Form 1023 or some variation of that, depending on your situation, assuming that you are filing to become a 501c3 public charity. There are a couple things that you need to make sure align in order to be able to get this compliance item taken care of to get your tax exempt status. You need to have an organization that is organized for public serving charitable purpose. So this is not for where you file to be a business or a for-profit entity. This is for the nonprofit entity. You will need to have certain items developed at least to some basic degree in order to complete the forms required, like a basic budget for your organization. Even if it changes later, you just have to have a basic one one. You need to be able to comply with the lobbying rules that are applicable to 501c3 nonprofits and more. You'll see a lot of these things laid out on Form 1023. If you just go to the IRS website, assuming you're in the United States, you can just download the latest version of the form and get a sense of all the different questions it's going to ask you. The third item you need to take care of while you're in the process of starting a nonprofit is your fundraising licensing. This is going to be relevant to most states in the United States, but basically you can't just start asking for money as soon as you become a nonprofit if you have to, according to your state, be able to have this license. So it's a license to basically ask for money or solicit money. So check out your Secretary of State's website for your specific state, and it should give you instructions on how to file for this special license to be able to fundraise and solicit money from potential donors. All right, so those are 3 key things you need to think through when you're starting a nonprofit, but what about after that? Let's talk through some of those ongoing or yearly compliance items that you're going to need to be on the lookout for and make sure that you are set up to take care of. The first item on this list is financial reporting and transparency. As a nonprofit, you have to be transparent about how you're spending the money that comes in and where you're getting the money that's coming in. So each year you're going to need to make sure that you have regularly kept up with your financial records, that you're tracking all of your income, that you're tracking all of your expenses, you're producing financial reports. This is something that you really should be going through and analyzing with your board on a regular basis anyway to see how you're doing financially. But you do also have to submit annual tax forms as a nonprofit to the IRS. So make sure that you're keeping all those things up to date. And some regions also go so far as to ask for an audit, which is a lot more in-depth, but that's another reason that you want to basically hang on to every receipt and have a solid accounting system in place to be able to produce these reliable financial reports. The second is governance and board of directors responsibilities. So it's the board's job to be responsible for the organization, to uphold the legal and fiduciary duties that the organization needs them to. So as part of that, compliance includes having regular board meetings, keeping board meeting minutes, which the IRS can request during an audit. So you want to be sure that you're at least keeping some basic meeting minutes that are recording who is in attendance and anything that was voted on by the board and who voted for what, items like that. You also have to uphold your board's structure. So for example, if you said in your organization bylaws, we're going to have at least 7 board members and no more than 15 board members at all times, you can't dip below 7 board members or you will be in violation of your own bylaws, which the IRS does not like. Another thing the board needs to be responsible for developing and updating regularly based on the needs of the organization is policy documents. Things like a code of ethics and a conflict of interest policy. So what does your board do when there's a potential conflict of interest, such as a board member has a separate private business entity and your nonprofit is thinking of hiring a business that provides that same service? Does that board member get to have their business provide the service and receive payment for that? That would be considered a potential conflict of interest. So you just need to have what you do in that situation written out, and your organization and board needs to be able to adhere to it at all times. The third compliance area that your nonprofit needs to be aware of is employment and labor laws. So if your organization has staff or is thinking of bringing on staff, it's a really good idea for you to familiarize yourself with the basics of this. Your organization, just like any organization or any business, would be responsible for upholding some basic employment laws, such as making sure you're meeting or exceeding minimum wage, making sure you're adhering to workplace safety rules, and of course, anti-discrimination laws. Some of this is going to require you to develop and continuously update documents related to hiring people, such as having written and up-to-date job descriptions, employment contracts, making sure that you are up to date on all the latest laws related to hiring, whether your state has specific rules around how you're able to terminate employees, and any employee benefits that they might be required by law to receive. The fourth area of compliance is related to fundraising. So something you really need to think about is that you're responsible for preparing and providing donors to your organization with a record of their donations, usually before the end of January, so that they can account for these things in their own personal taxes. You need to be making sure that all of your documents, your web pages, etc., are also transparent about what types of donations are tax exempt. For example, let's say a business wants to sponsor an event, but as part of the sponsorship, they're going to get 2 tickets to the event valued at $100 each. Well, you need to transparently disclose on your documentation to them that that $200 worth of tickets is not counted as part of the tax deductible donation. It needs to be subtracted from the total donation they gave, and that remaining amount is what is tax deductible. So transparency is a big theme here. But another thing to remember is that solicitation license that I told you had to get towards the beginning of your nonprofit journey. Well, you have to renew that each year also. You have to show your Secretary of State that you are still an active nonprofit, and to be able to continue fundraising, you have to get that charitable solicitation license again each year. There's a small fee for it as well. I think most states or many states are allowing you to renew that online. Sometimes it requires you to mail stuff in. So just know what your state's rules are. Fifth area of compliance on this list is privacy and data protection. You are responsible for keeping your contacts and your donors' contact information private and safe and secure. Not only are you supposed to do this for compliance, but it's also just a really good idea so that you can maintain the trust of your donors and supporters. And not just donors, you also want to make sure that you're protecting the private information related to the clients that you're serving, especially those who may be part of a vulnerable population. Depending on your area, you want to make sure that you're in compliance with things like the General Data Protection Regulation and anti-spam laws, making sure that people have a way to opt out of receiving newsletters and communication from you too. Sixth is you need to consider whether your specific mission has additional compliance or regulation things to be concerned with. If you are, for example, in a nonprofit that has a mission related to healthcare or education or environmental organizations, there may be other laws or regulations that your organization needs to be aware of and be able to comply with. So be sure to do your research related to your specific mission as well. So I know it can feel like a lot. I will tell you, as someone who has started a nonprofit and has had to keep up with some of these compliance items every single year, once you get into a rhythm of it, it can feel a bit more manageable. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Some of these items, if you have questions or if you have concerns about specific ones, or maybe you're just a compliance rock star and you want to share all about that too, drop that in the comments below. As I mentioned before, if you are in the process of starting a nonprofit or developing a sustainable fundraising plan, be sure to check out my website, foundertofulltime.com, where I have those online trainings and support resources for you. And my newsletter, you can subscribe using the link below this video. Like I said, I send out tips and resources and sometimes funding opportunities that I come across. Be sure to check that out, subscribe, and you can opt out anytime. Last thing, I have a group on Facebook called Change the World or Bust. We have several thousand folks from around the world hanging out in there, sharing what they're working on to make an impact in the world. Would love for you to join us, so come on by over there. That's all I have for you today. I'm Amber Melanie Smith, and I'll see you next time. Bye.